Welcome back to my channel, Stardust Stories, where I aim to tell my stories in order to help someone overcome heartache and pain in their lives by realizing that no matter what your circumstances, you have the power within you to overcome anything. Let me start this episode with this quote. Tell your story, shout it, write it, whisper it if you have to, but tell it. Some won't understand it, some will outright reject it, but many will thank you for it. And then the most magical thing will happen. One by one, voices will start to whisper, "Me too," and your tribe will gather, and you will never feel alone again. By L.R. Knost. And that is the reason I started this channel, to tell you that we all have stories that define us. My story is not more unique than yours. Yours is not more unique than the next person's. But what they have in common is that they can influence our lives in a profound way. We can help each other by sharing our experiences, and maybe, just maybe, our stories can be the inspiration that someone else needs to cope with what they are going through in life. Maybe we can show someone that no matter how bad the situation is that you're in, you can overcome it, and you too can become an inspiration for someone else. Unfortunately, childhood traumas does play a vital role in defining us and how we choose to lead our lives. I say choose because I truly believe that how we respond to what happened to us is our choice. We can allow it to define us and influence the rest of our lives, or we can choose to rise above it and use what we have gone through to make us stronger and let us grow into awesome human beings and be an inspiration to others. But it will always be your choice. You choose the outcome of your trauma. It will either destroy you or make you so much stronger than you've ever believed you could be. The choice is always yours. Following on from the previous episode, I will give you some insights to my early adult years and all the things that defined me and sculpted me to be where I am today. About a year into my marriage, things started spiraling out of control until it ended up in me walking away. Thinking back at that now, I realize how strong I actually was. That at such a young age, I was able to make a decision and follow through on it. But let me get back to the story. After we got married, we stayed with my new husband's father on his farm. I didn't notice before the wedding that my husband was severely depressed. Losing his mother at a young age and a failed suicide attempt after a breakup made him very depressed, and in those days it wasn't really something people talked about or did anything about. And of course at the time I had no idea what it was that was bothering him so much. But I was happy at first, to be away from my dad's house and to be the woman in the new house. I baked, I cooked, I had a veggie garden, a real housewife. I was happy. But I wanted us to get our own place, as living with his father was not ideal. He, however, was very much against it, and it caused so many endless problems between us. I was getting more and more frustrated to the point where I did not see our relationship going very much further. And after many fights and arguments, we eventually rented a house on a farm nearby. And once again, I was over the moon. Now I really had my own place, a place for us. But it also became my prison. He would spend all his time at his dad's farm, and even some nights would sleep over there. leaving me all alone in that huge farmhouse. The best times there was when my younger sister came over to visit over weekends. But as there was not much to do on the farm, I was becoming more and more lonely and frustrated. Because although he gave me the house that I wanted, he was never there to spend time with me. And when he did come over occasionally, it was only to have sex with me, and I had to oblige as I was his wife after all. A few months later, I had a miscarriage. It was in the very early stages of the pregnancy, and I didn't even know that I was pregnant. But in hindsight, I believe it was for the best. As heartless as that might sound. But after I came out of the hospital, he had already given up the house that we had rented and moved everything back to his dad. And so I was forced to go back there as well. I wasn't happy, but I couldn't really do anything about the situation and had to accept it for what it was. He never wanted me to work for my own money, so I was completely dependent on him, and I was getting more and more frustrated as I knew being a farmer's wife was not my destiny. I wanted more out of life. During the Christmas period of 1986, a very profound event took place, which would alter the course of my life completely. And again, looking back at it, it was meant to free me from this situation. My father-in-law's nephew and some guys, friends of his, escaped from prison where they spent time for drug possession. And after they escaped, they fled to his farm to hide out. As it was a very large farm, there were plenty of hiding places for them. At first, I had no idea that they were there. My father-in-law and husband were feeding them and made sure that they were okay, wherever it was that they were hiding on the farm. But eventually, I started asking questions about their strange behavior, such as taking food and drinks out the house. And after confronting them one day, they told me that they are helping these guys to hide from the police. I was not happy about it, but also I didn't really know what to do about it. I made an arrangement with my family to come over to our house for a traditional Christmas Eve dinner. And so on the day before Christmas, I started with the preparations for a huge traditional Christmas Eve dinner with all the trimmings, setting a beautiful table, and really having a lot of fun with it. Looking forward to spending Christmas Eve with the family. The morning of Christmas Eve was one of those days in your life that you will never forget. We were still asleep, and at about 5:30 that morning, we heard this loud bang on our bedroom window, and as I flew up, I saw a policeman pointing a gun at us through the open window. He shouted at us to open the house for them. My husband got up and went to open, while I tried to get dressed as quickly as I could. The police swamped the house, dragging my husband and my father-in-law, who was still sleeping at that stage, out of the house. I was petrified. I had no idea what was going on. The police ordered me to stay in my room, and so I just sat on my bed and waited for it all to end. Eventually, a police officer came to me and asked me to go outside with him. I had no idea where my husband or his father was, but the police officer told me that they were arrested for aiding and abetting fugitives and that they were taken away to the police station. He then asked me to give a statement about what I knew about the guys who were hiding on the farm. I told him what I knew, and after many hours, they all left, leaving me completely alone on the farm. and not having a clue what to do or who to call. I was devastated. I was traumatized. I was scared. I eventually got hold of my aunt and she came through to fetch me. I went with her to her house as it was closer to the police station where they were being held, and I took them some toiletries, etc. I also stayed with her for a few days up until the time that they were released on bail. Because of my statement about what had happened on the farm, I became a state witness, which meant that I had to testify against my husband and father-in-law, and that was just too much for our fragile relationship to handle. He just couldn't forgive me for testifying against him. And thinking about it now, I don't even know how the police got me to make a statement implicating him. I was young and I had never in my life had to do something like this. And maybe the trauma of what had happened made me tell them the truth, exactly what I knew, and therefore implicating him. Nevertheless, it was what it was, and there was nothing I could do to change it. It was a long, drawn-out court case, and with each month that passed, we grew further and further apart, and I got more and more lonely and unhappy. During the eventual court case, with me on the witness stand, the whole case was thrown out of court because of some technical legality, and all of a sudden it was over. They were cleared, and it was all over. In the next episode, I will tell you about my new life in the city and everything that happened there, and how that changed everything in my life and started a new journey for me. Until next time, never forget, you are strong, you are loved, and you are special.